grew up in a Christian home, and I had a relationship with God. At a certain point in my life, I felt like I had just totally messed up, that God couldn't use me anymore. I was 20 years old when I was separated from my husband and we were getting a divorce. And so at that point, I felt like God, he couldn't use me. My life was over. And so I really didn't know what to do at that point. I just remembered some verses in the Bible, and it said like God hates divorce. So I thought that maybe he hated me. And so at that point, I thought, well, I'm just going to try to live my life without God now. See how the world does it. I've watched my friends growing up, and somehow they survive without God. And so I kind of felt like, yeah, it wasn't just a divorce from my husband, but it was also a divorce from God. And I just thought that's how it had to be. So I walked away from God, and I got a new job. And yeah, from that point, I watched a lot of Grey's Anatomy to help me through that time, and I tried to fill my life with like all these things that, yeah, my heart was just like so empty and so broken at that time, and I tried to start filling it with things, and when I wouldn't feel satisfied, or if it was just for a moment, then I would reach out and do other things. So at first it was to make money, and then it was to drink alcohol and go to parties and do drugs, and then I started living with my boyfriend, and my life was just continually like, I was like so selfish and just trying to like fulfill like all my needs myself. And it came to a point where I had to get medicated with like antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, and I wanted my life to end. I think it's because like when you taste the sweetness of God like in your relationship, then I know at that point I was trying to get something close to that, and nothing was measuring up. It would be so temporary that it would make you desperate to keep on trying to do that way, like to live in that way. And it just like wasn't working for me. There's a certain point after, it was like I was able to live that way for about like a year and a half, and me and my boyfriend at the time, like we were just like coming to the ends of our ropes, like something needed to change. And I remember like we sold all our stuff and we're gonna move across the country, and like we're like, that will give us a better life, that will make us happy. And at that point, I just remember like being at my home at Christmas time, and one of my friends, she just came back from doing a YWAM DTS. I didn't really know what that was. I knew it was like a Christian thing, and she invited me out for coffee, and I was so scared because I'm like, oh, she's gonna judge me hardcore because like this is how I'm living my life right now, and I know better because like I grew up like with a relationship with God and in a Christian family, so I could only imagine the judgment that people could put on me, I guess. So we went out. I managed to take my sister with me to go for coffee to have some like backup. But then I was just so surprised because when my friend was talking to me, like she wasn't like condemning me. She just spoke about the simple things that like God was doing, not simple, like God was doing miracles in her life, and she saw these things, and then I could just tell like in her heart that she was totally transformed, because when we were younger and we were friends, she was a totally different person. But then when we're having coffee, I just recognized like this humility and this love for God, and it was just so shocking how she changed. And so I thought, if God can do that for her, maybe he could do something like that for me. And I remember leaving that coffee shop, and I felt like God said, how long are you going to continue to postpone the plans that I have for you? And like when he said that, I was like, you're still waiting? Like I totally rejected you. I think like I knew in my heart I could always choose him, but I was just so angry and yeah, I didn't I didn't know how to process any of my feelings, but to have him say like, "Okay, when are we going to do this? When are we going to start?" He said like, you can leave and move across the country, and we can continue this in a couple more years. Do you want to do that, or do you want to start now? And so I couldn't imagine doing the same thing for 2 more years of living in the world and trying to satisfy my own desires. And I thought like, okay, like if you still want me, then let's try this. Let's do this. And so then I decided to do a YWAM school. And so my